Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. No relation to Candy Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsports. I cannot do this podcast without my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
I could not,
Who's
nor
Candy?
would I do
Who
this.
is Candy? Who's Candy, by the
He
way?
was a pitcher in Major League Baseball for the Toronto Blue Jays. Candy
Oh, my Lord.
Maldonado.
How long ago was that?
80s.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Candy. I like
Candy.
that. I like that name for a dude. That's pretty cool.
Candelario
So
was his name.
I
Candy
see.
Maldonado. Yeah.
I got it. Now I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah.
What's going on with you? You good?
Not much. I'm great. I'm wonderful.
Good.
Had a good day back. I
Good.
felt like I've been off of work for a long, long time. And it's only been, 3 days? I mean, we were away for the weekend, but it was a long weekend.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, long day today, but productive day today. It was good. No complaints.
You could have worked most of Friday. We were kind of late getting to you.
Not really. I mean, you guys got here, 1 o'clock, a little 1:30
Yeah.
or something? Yeah.
I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
I did actually. I took a number of calls in the truck on the way to Indy. So
You did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
yeah, there was a lot of things happening today. But that isn't what we're here to talk about, Timmy. We're here to
No,
talk about
not at all.
the GMR Grand Prix, episode 68,
Wow.
taking place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. We were there live and in person. You and
We were.
I and your two sons, which was a tremendous highlight. I enjoyed spending the weekend with the boys.
It was a treat hanging out with my boys.
Yeah. I'll tell you that the Dustbuster got more work on the driver's seat of the new truck than any of the other seats in use. So I guess
Even
that's
my youngest son's seat, because I heard he
Even
spilled
your
a whole
youngest
bag of
son's
chips
seat.
back there.
he ate a whole
And
bag of
the older one told him he better clean it up.
cookies.
So, folks, just so you know, we took Dan's new ride, and it still smelled like a new car. So my
it's
kids were
only
a
a
little
month old.
leery about
Yeah.
getting it all dirty, but they did their fair shot.
I
Their
don't care.
fair. Yeah, they got a
He
little
didn't eat
dirty.
any chips.
So,
He ate that whole thing of cookies.
I'm sure he did. I didn't touch him. Were you amazed?
I know. I applaud
Didn't
you.
touch any cookies.
Great job, Timmy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
trying to
great
watch my
job.
figure, you know.
Hey, you got some new merch. Look at you.
I do.
Look at
I do
this.
have some new merch from the store. I had to get the Indianapolis Motor Speedway sweatshirt, I guess I would call it. I don't know. What do you want to call it?
It's a Lululemon
I
hooded
didn't want to say that.
long sleeve tee. I love it.
It is. Well, it's like a sweatshirt. It's got a hoodie. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
I got whatever
first
freebies they were
Lululemon
hanging out,
item
which is to say
ever.
nothing.
But it was cool.
It is cool.
Yeah. So I kind of been wearing it ever since.
Got to get some use out of that. Got to get every bit of.
It's not cheap, folks. It's
use out
not
of it.
cheap. You know, I was the one who spent the most money at the merch store, not my kids. So,
or
imagine
me,
that.
but you made
got a
fun of me for
program.
buying a program, and I bought the NTT data sticker. So come on.
I got the same sticker, which I
Yeah.
wasn't going to get, but my son needed one more thing, and I was like, oh, while I'm here, I'll just grab it. So that's what we did. Yeah, it was a good time. Awesome weather, a little warm, but it was very nice.
Yeah,
enjoyed it. A lot of fans out there, a lot of fun activities, a lot of just moseying around.
and we got
Good
to meet
racing.
Spencer face
got
to
to meet
face
Spencer,
live.
yes.
We've only
Yeah,
ever
met him in
zoomed
person.
and talked to him on the phone and all that stuff. So it was really cool to meet Spencer.
Yeah, so we did that, and you
Spencer
got to
is
yell
our
at every
web
driver.
guru,
that gets up an alley.
IndyCar1909.com. If
Yeah.
you're a fan of the show and you've been listening regularly, we mentioned Spencer's our web partner all the time, IndyCar1909.com.
And he's there the whole month, folks. So
I
he's
know. Amazing.
I just
Good
saw
for
he had a preview for the 500
Mhm.
RC Anderson, and I read that one. That was a good one. He had this article about the race that just happened on Sunday. So we try to retweet it so you can see what's going on there. And obviously, it's some good content. And if you're looking for a podcast, obviously you're not if you're listening. But if you are, you can find us on his website.
Yeah. Hey, a couple of things, Tim, before we get into IndyCar on the F1 front. Daniel Ricciardo had a seat fitting at AlphaTauri. Is that a big deal or a big deal?
It's a big deal. I think it's a really
I,
big deal.
I agree. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
If I were Nick DeVries, I would be concerned. I wouldn't be signing any long-term lease deals anywhere if I were Nick DeVries.
I agree. I think he's going to be in that seat before the season ends. We sort of talked about this a little bit in the
I
cars.
suppose, yeah. I mean, it's possible. I don't know that that would necessarily be the best choice, but it wouldn't be unusual or whatever if they really want to put him in a car or something. I think that
And
that's
Ricardo
possible.
sounds fully willing to get in the seat. So
Mm-hmm.
from what I
Yeah, I
saw
think he's
from some
willing.
Twitter
Yeah,
posts. So yeah, I think it's a big deal. Yeah, it's definitely a
I
big
really
deal.
do.
He's on his way back into a seat for sure next year, I would assume. I think there's no doubt of that.
I don't know if he would go to AlphaTauri full time. Do you?
Yeah, I think he would.
Hmm.
What are you gonna do? Sit around, be a reserve driver? Why not get out there? We know racers love to race. They're very competitive. Obviously, it's not the most competitive seat, but it is within that Red Bull family. So who knows? And if he goes to
Yeah,
AlphaTauri next year, or he could be in Red Bull next year, you never know.
he could be. Yeah,
I don't think he's
yeah,
going
you
out of
never know.
those. It's not going to be anything else, in my opinion. But that's just me thinking. You are where you're at. They wanted you back based on your performance before and where you were and what you did. And obviously, he's got a great personality. Sometimes very goofy, but I think he
Mhm.
resonates with fans and resonates with the people that run the series and the team owners and all that. So yeah, big deal.
Maybe not a
Big deal.
championship caliber personality.
He does have that championship caliber personality.
I don't think so.
I
He's not
think he does
ruthless.
in a
He's not
goofy way.
ruthless. Mm-mm. You can't be
Well,
ruthless and goofy.
he can be ruthless on the track, but it's not the same as a typical F1 champion, I would say, but I'm sure there's been some goofy ones back in the day.
Yeah.
Kind of
The
like Candy.
race.com, this is the race.com, is reporting a rumor of a possible minority share sale in the Alpine F1 team. Big deal or big deal?
Big deal.
I actually think this is a big deal. Here's why. Isn't it Alpine that Michael Andretti wanted to form a technical alliance with in his Andretti Global F1 aspirations?
I don't know. I have to go back and look. You're saying it is?
I'm saying it is.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a way for Michael to circumvent having to be approved as a 11th team and do all this payout and do all this dog and pony, begging people to let them on the grid. So it's possible.
Yeah, I guess if it comes to that, and that's the reason for all this going on, then yeah, it's a huge deal. Not just a
Hmm.
big deal, it's a huge deal. So
Yeah,
I don't think there's all that to it, but I like the way you're thinking about this.
yeah. That just kind of hit me. Hey,
Hmm.
last thing, not a big deal, or maybe a big deal. Hey, Cadillac won the IMSA race at big deal for Chip
I
at
guess.
Laguna Seca, right? Regner
I heard it was in.
Van der Zand and Sebastian Bourdais take victory in the 0-1 Cadillac, which doesn't have the best livery this year as it did last year, but take victory at Laguna Seca. Tough start to the season with them, but or tough start to the weekend for them. My goodness, Daniel, learn to speak. And but they were able to come away with a victory. So good on them.
Oh,
Chip likes winners.
oh, yeah, big deal.
I think that's a big deal. Chip likes winners, Timmy, and Chip got a win in Laguna, and Chip got a win in Indy.
He swept the weekend.
He swept the weekend. Hot weekend, hot out there, as we could attest when we were sitting on the mound in the S's before moving over to the Southwest Vista, which was the move of the weekend. Getting up there, getting in the
Hmm.
shade, a little bit of a breeze, and we got great view of the track up in that area,
Yeah,
which is
that'd
like,
be the Northwest, but that's okay.
oh yeah, Northwest Vista. So we were in the Northwest, and we were in the approach to turn 4, ironically, of the oval turn 4. Great view from there, though. Great view from there.
Oh yeah, you could see them partly down the front straight, but you could see them into 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the switchback, as everybody's calling it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the 5-6 combination down Holman Boulevard, and then you lost them under the bridge there. But it was much better than sitting in the S's or the switchbacks, if you will. So,
Yep.
yeah, we made the move to get out of the sun and get a breeze, and we found the top row that is under that. It's interesting. They got that canopy on top, which has got seats. It's almost like I don't know, like a
spotter stand or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And then we were under that, and so we're in the shade, and the breeze was coming through the fence, and we sat up there for the whole race.
Yeah.
Then we had to retrieve our chairs off the
it was
mound.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, totally
cool.
fine.
We lost one.
Yeah. We did lose one. Somebody took one of our chairs.
Someone took one. Oh, well.
That's okay. They must have been mad we reserved a spot and never sat there.
Maybe. All right, let's get
on with it.
There was
one broken chair not too far down the road, so I wonder if it was that person's like, oh, I'm going to replace this one. Who knows?
Yeah, good for them. They were enterprising.
Way to get a chair.
Power 5 teams, as we've been doing on our race recaps, we go through the Power 4, and then Tim and I each pick our 5th team. Kicking it off here with our Power 1st team, Chip Ganassi Racing. First win of the season by Alex Palou, who also takes the lead in the championship with this win. Won by almost 17 seconds, Tim. Not the record, though. Dixon finishes 6th, Ericsson 8th. This caused him to relinquish the championship lead to Palou, and Marcus Armstrong finishes 15th. Great weekend by Ganassi. We're going to talk a little bit about Arrow McLaren in a minute. They had the better finish as a team, but you contend that Ganassi has better cars throughout a stint. Tell me about that, Timmy.
Yeah, I just noticed that Ganassi, as the stint went on, the cars got stronger and stronger, specifically, Palou, right? So he was behind a little bit, and in the middle stint, as that sort of went on, he caught up to Lundgaard at the time, because that was who was out there and came through. And then even watching Dixon and Ericsson come through there at the end, they seemed to have the balance better. So the tire wear wasn't as bad. They didn't go off and lose their setup, unlike, let's say, the Andretti's did, right? So they seemed to lose their setup as the stint went on. Yeah, and as well as the Rahals. And so you could see, and it was very interesting from our standpoint of where we were sitting up in the Northwest Vista, you could see them go through turn 4 of the road course, obviously, and you could see the rear ends on the cars that didn't have good setups really going out. They were very loose. And when you looked at the Ganassi cars go through, they were stable all the way through that corner. Yeah. And it RC really cars was across all 4 of their cars. And so you saw Rossi fall back the one stint with some issues with handling. And so they just seem to have the setup overall. Now the results show that, they had they had Alex Palou win by 17 seconds. The other folks did okay, top 10 for the other 2, and then top 15 for Armstrong. So overall, they looked very solid on the track.
Yeah. This is Palou's first win this season, not as dominant as the season-ending win at Laguna Seca last year, but he certainly had the measure of the field. I don't think anybody really had anything for him at any time during this race. Lundgaard seemed to put up the best effort throughout most of it, but again, fell off, as you suggested. Setup just wasn't there, throughout the stint. This did make you and I both think of the Laguna race last year as it was playing out, didn't it? I mean, that was one of the things that we had talked about sitting in the stands. It just felt like Laguna. It just felt like there was nobody who was going to catch Palou.
And that was in the first stint. We were looking at that and talking about that. And the second stint was a little different. And then the final one there where he went out and just pulled away, it was true Laguna Seca style.
Yeah. Through 5 races, Ganassi has, as a team, has 2 wins, one each with Palou and Ericsson. But more importantly, 3 of the veteran drivers, that being Palou, Ericsson, and Dixon, are all in the top 10 in the championship.
Yeah, that shows Ganassi's, here for not only the 500, which is going to take place in a couple of weeks, but also, just here from a season-long longevity standpoint, and they'll be strong throughout. And Ericsson getting that win in St. Pete, which was, there were circumstances that happened that allowed him to get that victory. But
Had himself in position to
you're up front,
capitalize. Yep.
yeah, if you're up front and you're able to capitalize, as you mentioned, and take advantage of other folks' misfortunes, that's what you need in a championship run. And I think when you look at the top three drivers there, they're definitely in that. And with Armstrong, obviously he's leading the rookie standings for the championship as well. So it could be a sweep from that team.
He's going to be good. You recognize that. I think we both recognize that. I think that Armstrong's going to be pretty good.
I think so. Yeah, I was expecting a little more out of this race. I wasn't
Mhm.
expecting him to be 15th. We'll call it mid-pack. I was expecting him to be in the top 10, and he wasn't. So that sort of surprises me a little bit, based on the type of track we're at. Obviously, he talked about tire drag, how it's not too bad in his car, which is interesting, him saying that, and then us witnessing it just from the Ganassi team to other teams. But him just saying the tires pretty much are consistent throughout a full stint, which was not what was going on overseas when he was driving in Europe. So is it just the setup of the Ganassi car that's not doing it, or is it the tire overall across all teams? And I would say it's Ganassi's got the setup figured out on a lot of these courses that tire wear isn't so prominent.
Yeah, they're just dialed in. Is this the momentum that should instill fear in other teams heading into the 500, knowing how dominant Ganassi was last year, how dominant this win was by Palou? Should this make the other teams fearful on what they're going to see a repeat possibly going into qualifying in just a few days?
Well, yeah, I think you got to definitely be watching out for the team, right? I think you definitely need to be on your toes and understanding what's going on with the car, and I don't want to call it spying on their cars, but taking a look at what kind of setups they have going on with all the different pieces of aero you can put on it and you can take off. Obviously their damper program is phenomenal, right? They come out of the box and they do well a lot. So yeah, I think people are taking note for sure. They were quick even back when they did the practice back in April. And, Tuesday, I guess that's tomorrow. Tomorrow they're going to kick off practice. So we'll see, how they come out of the box. And then obviously they're going to be strong. So fear, I don't know if it's fear. I think it's just, better pony up and have some speed. Otherwise, Ganassi is going to take you down.
Yeah. The Power 2 team, Arrow McLaren, in some ways, Tim, this could be the Power 1 team if we were taking consistency into account. Pato O'Ward finishes second. Alex Rossi third. I believe his best finish in the team so far. And Felix Rosenqvist fifth. As an aside note, I enjoyed greatly this whole weekend screaming at Pato O'Ward every time we saw him, and he always turned. My voice just seems.
He acknowledged you every time you yelled at him.
He did. So back on point here. I just asked about momentum going into the 500. Would you say that Arrow McLaren might have Chip Ganassi looking over their shoulder a bit?
I think so. And I think this is the team you got to look out for. I think this team is going to be strong. Obviously, the results are brilliant. They did an awesome job. They just couldn't get one of the Ganassi guys right. One of the Ganassi guys was just over the top. And this team really put it all together. They put it together. They had some mishaps throughout the race, but they came back. Their cars were pretty good over a stint too, right? This was the team, except for the Reds. It seemed like the Reds, they would fall off and couldn't go as far on Reds as the Ganassi folks. And so I think that's the difference here. Besides the, Palou just being dominant with, what'd you say, 17 seconds. He won the race by. So I think these are two teams you got to look out for sure when it comes to qualifying and even the race. They're going to be very tough.
Yeah. Rosenqvist started this race in second place. He seems to be a really good qualifier, but not a great starter. And your expectation was that he was going to fall back pretty soon, right? Like in short order.
I said fifth by lap 2 when we were up in the stands.
Yeah, and he did. He fell back. I don't know what that is there about about Felix. I think that maybe it's just a little too tentative, maybe,
Well, we
especially
saw it at
going into that
Texas.
first turn. Yep. Yeah, Texas too. Especially going in the first turn at Indy in the road course. I think there's definitely an opportunity to get overly aggressive there. You're going to overshoot that turn, and you might as well forget it. You're going to see the whole field go by you when you take that escape.
Yeah, in my opinion, you got to have your shoulders out. You got to have
Hmm.
your elbows out, your shoulders out. You got to have everything out. You got to protect your second place start, right? You got to protect that, and you got to go for it. So you can't hold back at that point. And I'm not saying he's holding back, but something, whether it's when to accelerate, being in the right gear, whether it's getting the tires to optimal temperature, getting the dirt and gravel off of them. I don't know what it is, but it's happened more than once. And um, I think you had thought he might take the lead going in there, and I was like, "There's no way." And so, it is what it is. But I think you got to look at that and understand what's going on, and look at telemetry from the cars and understand where the difference could be in that. And I don't think it's not a setup thing at that point. I think it's all driver. So you gotta get it right on those starts, because when you're on a road course or any street course and you lose like that, it's hard to get those positions back. And even in the ovals with the the arrow and the wind and the downforce when you're in dirty air versus clean air. So disappointing for sure on that front, but he battled back,
Just finished fifth.
um,
He'll take it, right?
finished fifth.
Consistency. He didn't crash
So
out, so it was good. He spent a
yeah,
lot of that race battling his teammate. I think I need to do a better job of understanding who's who in that, right? Because it's orange and blue on both of them, and
hmm,
on both of them being Rosenquist and Rossi. But
correct.
they spent a lot of this race sort of racing each other, which is good. It's clean, and it's definitely what you need to do, right? No team orders here in IndyCar generally. But that was pretty good. It was fun to see. I mean, Rossi finishing third, he started 10th, and the season's been pretty good so far. I mean, I think better than I would tell you better than I expected. I don't know 100% what your expectations are for Alexander Rossi moving over to McLaren. We kid a lot about gelling and everything else, but um I think that he's come into this team and has started a little further ahead than what I would have expected him to.
Yeah, and whatever took place at Barber didn't take place here. So they had some
Yeah.
issues. Rossi explained there were some issues. He didn't want to get into the details, but he said we missed a few things, almost like they missed the details on a few things. And I think when you look at the results here, they button those up really
Yeah.
fast from 2 weeks ago.
They hired what,
Yeah,
40
so
or
it's
50
interesting.
new
You got
people?
you got Honda, Chevy with the two
Hmm.
Power One and Power Two, and to your point, and I want to stress it again, is they could have been the Power One team for sure,
Easily
even though
based
they
on
didn't take
consistency. Yep.
take the victory. And that would have been interesting if that's how we played it out in the show, because
Yeah.
I think people would have been a little thrown off by that. But good
Certainly would
run
have
by
earned it.
McLaren, and I think they're going to
Yeah.
be tough come the next 2 weeks here.
Yeah, I agree. Power third team, Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. Yes, you heard that right. This was the start to a weekend that RLL has been in search of for a couple of years, Timmy. Lundgaard took pole, Harvey fourth place, and Graham starting eighth. Unfortunately, the team couldn't sustain that momentum throughout the race, with the notable exception of Lundgaard, who was really at another level when compared to his teammates. Lundgaard finishes fourth due to a tire strategy that was waning in the final laps of the race. Graham finished 10th, and I think it might have been a little bit of a lucky 10th, right? Because he was knocked out early with a puncture, had to stop, was lucky to not go a lap down, was able to stay ahead of the pace car.
Hmm.
But in order for his strategy to pay out long term throughout that race, he needed some yellow. He needed some help there. Um, Jack, unfortunately, just wasn't able to maintain the inspired drive he had in practice and qualifying. He had a spin late in the race, defending there, and that only kind of sealed his run to a problematic 20th place. Both Lundgaard and Rahal led laps. Christian led 13. Graham led 7. Again, Graham's narrative is really based around his off-sequence stop in the beginning due to the puncture. And I wrote this in the notes purposely, right? Is RLL back? on a winning track. I scratched out winning and
You
wrote
sure
in
did.
positive track. Timmy, are they on a positive track?
I don't know. It's still hard for me to say yes to this. Obviously, there's some positive takeaways they can get from the weekend, right? They were strong on single lap speed. They weren't strong over the long haul compared to the two other teams that finished in front of them. So
Which is really the point, right? I mean, you sort of used that observation of Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan racing cars, the three cars over their stints, when you made that observation of they're just not as good as the Ganassi cars. They're just not as good as Arrow McLaren over the stint because you could see it and it was pretty pronounced.
you could see it in just one corner. So if you were able to have that sort of angle on all different corners, you would see how it all adds up lap after lap that you get behind. And you're not going to see it at the beginning of the stint, right? The tires are good. You're not going to see
Mm-hmm.
it. You're not going to see it as the stint rolls on. That's when you start to see it. And that's when you see the cars that don't have the best setup for a duration of 20, 30 laps, whatever it is, they come backwards. And we watched it happen and we watched it throughout the race. So the vantage point was really good to watch multiple corners and what was going on. And the observation was, yeah, you're getting there, which is great. You need to perform well on Friday or Saturday, whatever day qualifying is, to be in a position to take a win, but you also have to have the right setup throughout that race in order to do it. And we've always said they've got a good car. They drive up through the field
Graham.
to a certain point, but they
Yeah.
don't have a car to sustain the top 5, 4, 6 spots, whatever it is, in order to, get that win. And close here with what, a fourth here that
Lundgaard.
Lundgaard had. So just off the podium. So, it's one of those things where they're getting there. They're just not quite there. So I would not put them in a podium spot over the next several races here.
Right. I believe that they are on a positive track. I think that they'll continue to sort of, build on this over the course of the season. I know that's like drinking from a fire hose. There's no doubt about it, right? Because you're in the throes of a championship. This is not off-season testing, and there really is no off-season testing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not like back in the kart days, right? So
Yep.
I think that the team is on a positive track. I think they'll continue to move up, and I also think that as this continues to move along that positive trajectory, that the rest of it will kind of come and go, right? Will come with it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Race strategy, because they've been racing from 20th and further back
Yeah.
starting positions, right? So I think the strategies will help them as they are starting further forward, so they can sort of strengthen that strategy piece. That quote, that what I'm going to call a race sim, right? They're going to be able to look at that a little bit differently because they're going to be starting in a more favorable position, or at least should be starting in a more favorable position in the races to come here. So I think that they're definitely out there. I'm going to hit you with one more piece here.
Okay.
And I know you're going to disagree. And I don't care.
All right.
I'm going to campaign for Jack Harvey to have one more year with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan racing. And I'm saying it because he deserves it, right?
I'm not
He
sure he
endured
does.
a rotten season last year where the team was completely lost. Started out this season a little sketchy too, right?
Yeah,
They
sure
had to
did.
kind of find the momentum quickly, which is good. We're only in the 5th race of the season. And they're starting to get their feet under him. So yes, I think he deserves another year. I think if this is the trajectory that they're on and they're going to sustain this, then he gets one more year on this deal. And in 2024, he has to prove that he deserves a top ride and deserves to be paid to drive a top ride. Disagree with me, Timmy.
I completely disagree with you, and
I know you
I'll
do.
just do it based on this one race. I don't have to look at the rest. You qualify fourth, you finish 20th. you can't qualify way up the field and then have a miserable race unless something really goes wrong. And from what I've witnessed throughout the entire race, nothing went majorly wrong with the car throughout the whole race. And again, I wasn't listening to the scanner, I wasn't listening to the broadcast. So if there was something that really happened to his car, then maybe that you can throw this out. But he was just slower than the top guys out there. And
Yeah.
you can't come off of qualifying with this fourth. And then if you go sixth, seventh, eighth, if you're still top 10, yeah, fine. But you can't go back to 20th. That's a long ways back.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he can get another year with them. I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm not sure where he's going to go. But at the end of the day, I'll disagree with you. And Jack seems like a great guy. I got nothing against him personally. It's just a matter of performance on track and where you go. Now, if it changes over the next, several races or the season, and they figure it out, and he figures it out on race day, then all the power to him. I'd say yeah at that point. But based on what I saw at Indy, no. The other thing I'd like to say about the team is that I think maybe they figured out road courses, right? And we got to wait till Road America to figure that out. So you've got the oval coming up. And again, they were terrible in practice. They were the slowest cars out there. Who knows if they're even all going to make the 500? I'm not predicting that they're not, but you never know. They had a
four cars out there.
setup, so hopefully they.
You know what my feeling has been all along about adding a fourth car when they really don't have, they don't have three cars figured out just yet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they come out tomorrow on Tuesday this week and see where they sort of land, because they were nowhere to be found. Yep. Then you go to Detroit, you come here in order to do a street course, and then you get back to a road course. It'll be interesting how they do at 500, what they do on a street course, and then they could bomb both of those, in my opinion. Like, it could happen, and they may be good again at Road America. So you say, hey, we got this figured out, but we still need to figure these two types of tracks out.
I would say I have very little in the way of positive expectations for the Indy 500. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they figured something out since that April test, because they were pretty rugged there.
And that's changed from your opinion before, because they were really good 3 years ago, whatever it was, 4 years ago.
So who knows what's gone, sideways.
This is pre-aero screen is what we're talking.
Yeah, that's true. So the one thing I will say to you is I'm gonna set St. Pete aside, because that wasn't great. I'm not looking at it, but memory serves that wasn't great. But Long Beach, 12th place for Graham, 13th for Jack, and 14th for Lundgaard. So that's kind of the beginning of this sort of fog lifting, so to speak, with Rahal Letterman, and then they have gone into Barber. They did decent at Barber, and then this one here, which I think has been, from a team perspective, I would say, and only gauging them against themselves in this case, right? I would say that this was a pretty good weekend, right? With the exception of Jack's crazy finish, versus where he started. So, Detroit could be good for them. Graham was a back-to-back winner at Detroit pre-aero screen, when they had all that body work, all that Knight Rider body work. And so, it could be good for them. It's all new for everybody. It's an all new track. It's not Belle Isle. So we'll have to see what people are able to pull together. You and I both believe that there's large stretches, if not the entire course setup is all, fresh concrete. So we'll see what happens, but I'm with you. I think that the next definite, gauge here will be Road America, with that. So, I didn't write it in there, so I guess I should say it. So yeah, Christian finished 4th, Graham finished 10th, and then, as I mentioned, Jack finishes 20th. I had my Jack Harvey shirt on. As you mentioned, I was the only one in the entire place wearing a Jack Harvey shirt. I did see one other Jack Harvey shirt. You claim not to see it. But I was aggravated. We hung out there at that gasoline alley because I wanted to get a picture. I was wearing my You Don't Know Jack shirt, right? And I'm like, this tweet's writing itself. I'm going to get a picture with Jack Harvey, and it's going to say, I do know Jack.
Yeah.
And guess who dissed me for that picture?
He dissed you, and I told you, like you just mentioned, you're going to be the only guy with a Jack Harvey shirt on, and I think you really were. Whatever shirt you said you saw somebody, I never saw that person. So in my mind, you still were the only person out of however many fans were there that had a Jack Harvey shirt on. Was there any stuff in the merch? Did you see any more Jack Harvey
No,
merch?
I saw
Not a thing.
Lugard stuff though, which was weird.
Yeah. So yeah. So picture this: we're in Gasoline Alley, and Dan's, yelling, calling out names of all the drivers. It's really a fun atmosphere there. And so today I'm sitting
And
around.
I'm super loud in those situations.
You're super loud, like everybody can hear Dan. And of course, he asked Jack to come over, and Jack's like, "Not right now. He's too busy."
Yeah.
And
I'm busy
everybody
doing
else
what?
was. I had no idea. It was after morning warm up, folks. To give you an idea, it was after morning warm up, and you had 4 hours until the race. Who knows? Who knows? So, but I think, what I think Indianapolis should do, and this is kind of going off on a tangent, is that Gasoline Alley. You could really turn that into like an event. And I'm thinking like grandstands that you'd have to do some reconfiguring, but grandstands that line that, like, it's really a tunnel that you go through in order to get to the track, and everybody has to go through there. And it's
No,
really
I
like,
want to be that close to them. I don't want to be sitting in a grandstand watching them walk
but it's
by
almost
me.
like a red carpet event where you
Yes.
got to go through and look at it. And the drivers have to go through, the cars have to go through, because there's a lot of fanfare that goes on there. There's a lot of folks that got autographs from drivers, which was really, really cool to see. You could see the ones that wanted to stop.
Went back and forth, seeing people
he went
taking
side to
pictures and signing
side,
autographs.
signing. Yep. And then you had Pato doing the same thing. Those were the two that really did it. And then you have others that just want to get through the tunnel and just kind of wave and do their thing. Like, I'm here to work and not to really interact too much. But I think you could turn that into something. And I almost think of the Phoenix Open and that par 3 where it's like they call it the Coliseum there, where they got like, you could do something really amazing there. So think about it in Indianapolis. It could be a really cool like event and a walk up. It's been tradition for years to go through Gasoline Alley. Why not make it its own event within the event?
Wholeheartedly disagree.
Well, there you go. We can't always agree. I disagree on Jack. You disagree on Gasoline Alley.
Disagree. Power 4th team, Penske. 7th place, Joseph Newgarden. Power finishes equal to his number, 12th place. Scotty Max, 16th. What the really hanging on to this Power 4th spot by virtue of Newgarden's 7th place. But frankly, this is an unforgettable weekend for a team that needs positive vibes going into this May, Timmy. They've not been good the last couple of May.
They were not even in the picture all day.
Nope. The winningest guy on the Indianapolis road course finished 12th.
Yeah.
And had some scrappy battles in the midfield there with young Kirkwood in particular.
Yeah, and I think that's what sort of put Power, obviously, that put Power back. He lost 7 spots, I think it was, something of that, 4 or 7, whatever it was, when he got spun out by Kirkwood, who got a penalty he rightly deserved.
Yeah.
Which you love, and I know you want
we're going to talk about it.
Right? All right, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but maybe Power would have, if Power didn't have that incident and Newgarden finished where he did, maybe we'd be saying different things about Team Penske and what they did. Scotty Mack, like you mentioned, just wasn't there all day. The setup was not around, and he finished 16th. So,
yeah. We were there. We've talked about that, and we had a pretty good vantage point. We could see a lot of what was going on in this race. And I watched the race Sunday morning on the DVR. Tim, I can't find much to offer on this team. Can you?
No.
Nope. No. Other than, the only thing that stands out to me is this delicious penalty that was served up to Cal Kirkwood for spinning our series defending champion, Will Power. In case you hadn't seen it, Power pushed Kirkwood wide into turn 1, causing Kirkwood to run onto the grass. But rather than wait for an opening, he plowed his way back onto the track, spinning Will Power. I should also note that Kirkwood is who caused the puncture to Rahal at the beginning. Not his fault necessarily, but just kind of as a note. But because of that spin to Will Power, he was told, and Will Power was at the tail end of the field at that point when they levied this penalty to Kirkwood. And it was the first time I remember seeing this, Tim. I've been watching this a long time. They told him he had to go behind Will Power, drop to the back of the field. Tim, that was delicious. It
It
really
was.
was.
It was cool to see him. We watched it happen, right? Took him a half a lap to get all the way back there.
Yeah.
I think it should be a little more than that, as I mentioned at one
Yeah.
point to you. Like you should have to go 3 seconds back or 5 seconds back of power and not be right on his gearbox after that.
That
But
would be like a
that
stop and
could
go.
make,
Yeah. That would be
yeah,
like a stop
yeah,
and go penalty. That would really be harsh.
yeah, that
That
would
would
be
be harsh.
super harsh. But it was a good penalty. They put
Yeah.
them right together again to battle it out and sort of figure out their differences. But yeah, it was fun to watch for sure, but unfortunate for Power. And I think Power would have had a much better, obviously would have had a much better finish. And like I said, we would have been talking differently about this team, I think, if that didn't take place.
Yeah. And I'm not, suggesting anything about Kyle Kirkwood. I've been transparent here. I think he's got some decision making that is not great all the time. I think it's still something he's learning. His learning that picked up from Foyt last year is much, much different than what he's learning it being in a more top tier ride this year with Andretti. He's got a win on the season, but it's feast or famine, right? It's very schizophrenic, the sort of the season that he's having and these kind of things. You see that the field's coming through here, man. You know what I mean? You gotta, as much as it has to hurt, you gotta wait for your spot to get in there. You can't just go pushing your way back in, off the grass
Yeah,
like that.
it was a full on push. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. McLaughlin had wing damage early, which caused him to have to stop and for a new wing, and that certainly hurt his day. And that was in the opening laps. We never really saw what was going on there. I didn't see anything on TV, and TV didn't talk about it. But
Yeah, and
he
I didn't
had
see anything
to.
replayed on the big screen that we had full
Nope.
advantage of.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of, um, out of sight, out of mind, and he was within the mid pack most of the day.
Yeah. For me, I'm moving into the power fifth.
All right, let's do it. I want to hear
I got
yours.
one.
You don't have one?
Nope. If I had to assign it somewhere, I would assign it to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Doug Bowles. Right? Because
That,
the
that is
Speedway
so
looked
hilarious.
great. It was nice and clean. The only thing I was bummed about is our original spot there in the switchbacks and then heading down Holman Boulevard. They fixed those berms. And as I read today, looking at the IMSA race, so I could send you that information about IMSA, they have kind of enhanced those berms out in that first turn section off of, into the road course in anticipation of IMSA coming along. So you can't see all the way across like I could last year, but where we were in that Southwest Vista, I would tell you immediately that's the place to be. I thought it was a perfect spot. But
I
Doug
shouldn't
got
tell
up,
everybody, but
right? He was in the parade cars, the parade Camaros, had some VIPs certainly that were in those cars. They came around, sort of parked right in front of that, nearest that stand that we were sitting in. Doug got up on the safer barrier and he was applauding the crowd for being out there, and the crowd was just cheering him wildly. I mean, just a total class act. I can't pick a power fifth, Tim. I really can't. Andretti was completely lost this weekend. I'm going to say completely lost because the expectations going into this weekend, Grosjean was aggravated with the team. Team surely was aggravated with Grosjean. He needed a wing too. And, who else do you pick? There's really nowhere else to go with this thing. Nobody wanted to grab hold of it. Ed Carpenter Racing, we expected more out of Renus VK. That wasn't there. Any of the rest of this just wasn't there for me. What about
Hunkos
you?
Hollinger wasn't around.
Nope.
They weren't around. You had Calamila that finished way down in the field as well. So I'm with you, Dan. I don't have a power five. And
No.
I was thinking the same thing you were thinking. If it goes to anybody, it goes to the track, the speedway. It goes to them for putting on this event, doing the upgrades that they did to the facility with the mounds and giving fans access to the stands if you bought a ticket, allowing kids to come in that were 15 and under. That's for free. You could bring 4 tickets. Think of this. Think of this. If you and I, we each bought a ticket, and folks, we spent $50 on a ticket because we had the flex ticket that allowed us to go up in the grandstands. You could bring up to 4 kids, 15 and under, on your ticket. We could have got in 10 people. We
Yeah,
could have got in 10 people for our 2 tickets.
for $100.
That's $10 a person to
Yeah,
get into the race. Think about that. So it's a great event. They do wonderful things at the Speedway. They allow access for children to get them to be fans. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for the community. It's the right thing for the IndyCar fans. They are by far my Power 5 team for this week.
totally agree.
By
Totally
far.
agree. Yep.
They might even be Power 3 for me.
Might have to consider
But I'll give
changing
them
up this
5.
power thing. Hey, I got some other notable observations here throughout the weekend. Just gonna kind of run it down real quick. I hadn't seen a blocking penalty in a while, and this weekend we saw one levied against Colton Herta. He moved in reaction to Rosenquist, who was executing a pass into turn 7 there, so he had to give up the position. Did you see that?
I saw it. I saw it
Do you agree
clear
with
as
it?
day. Saw it. The announcers announced it. They replayed it. They did a really good job for the people that were there to see what was going on. And Herta should have never even been trying to battle.
Yeah, he didn't have the car. Yeah.
The
His
car went
was
off
falling
really
apart
bad
that
at the end
point.
of that stint. Really, really
Yeah.
bad. He lost 4 or 5 spots.
Right. And part of that was he had reported, which I heard when I watched the broadcast, was he had a stuck rear anti-roll bar. And I would tell you, maybe it was a chunk of rubber, and I'm not calling it marbles. You could see full-on chunks of rubber down Holman Boulevard, where that pedestrian bridge, like you and I noted the little bits of rubber on that bridge, and you were like,
It was
man,
actually
could
on
this
the
be
bridge.
flying up from up there? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
It was clean when we crossed it the first time. When we went back over, it was full of rubber up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you're walking. So it was coming over the top because, as most people know, there's the banners, so you can't stand on the walkway and actually watch the race. And then it was coming over the top and hitting the walkway. So
Yeah.
tire deck was huge.
Yep. Romain Grosjean, as I mentioned, was aggravated and quite vocal after a disastrous qualifying effort. This unfortunate start killed the momentum of the last 2 races where he finished second, both at Long Beach and Barber. So I'm sure he'll be looking for a nice rebound into this 500. Kirkwood was the Andretti star in qualifying. He started 6th, but otherwise the Andretti squad had an average start at 13th, which is not great.
Yeah.
I should note that Grosjean started 18th and finished 7th, but he had his hands full all weekend.
Yeah, he did. He was wheeling it and trying to hang on to it for sure.
He was pretty aggressive.
He was very aggressive, but that's his style, right? That's how he does it.
Yep. The Coyne teammates came together, knocking both out at the start. Tim, I'm sure he's a terrific person. I'm not judging the man, okay? But I'm starting to question Stingray Rob's long-term future in IndyCar. How do you feel?
I think it's questionable. I didn't like the pick originally, so I was not on board with this signing, and I think it's proving itself over the first 5 races of the season. So I don't expect anything to come out of Stingray at this point, and Coyne has just been off terribly this year, which you and I talked that typically they're better than this. So maybe the competition's elevated or something's not jiving in that team right now.
Yep. Indy Next. This was the first time I watched an Indy Next race or an Indy Lights race in its entirety. I thought the racing was pretty good. What about you?
I thought it was pretty good too. I thought it was
pretty good.
The person that won it led the whole thing, but there was some action in the field that we watched, and there was some. The second place driver was
getting
closing at the closing laps.
Yeah.
So he had to hold on to it. It was exciting. It was fun. It was good to see, the next series run, and they'll be, as you mentioned, they'll be at Detroit as their next race. So we'll get to see them there again.
Yeah.
Will we watch the whole thing? I guess maybe we will this time. Last time we didn't. So
watch from the media
check
center
them out.
and the air conditioning. The Indy Next page shows. The Indy Next page on IndyCar.com shows 20 total drivers, with 10 of those listed under HMD. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's half the field. Though I believe the active number is 8 drivers and 18 drivers finished this race at IMS. So what I'm saying is Juncos Hollinger driver Matteo Nannini is who won the race against all odds. And I don't say that as he doesn't have the talent or that Juncos isn't putting quality equipment under him. I'm saying it from the perspective of they only have 2 out of 18 cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
8 of those cars are HMD cars. 4 of those cars are Andretti cars, and the other 4 are from other teams, right? So said another way, the team that won is 11% of the field versus 67% between 2 teams. So congrats to Matteo Nannini and Juncos Hollinger Racing. The little team that can, they keep proving it. I mean, they've fallen back a little bit in IndyCar in the top series, but they continue to be the little team that can. I sent you the link for the gear. I think we should get ourselves some merch.
Yeah, I did. I was interested that it came out.
Very reasonably priced. You can buy like 6 shirts for the price of that one.
Oh, come on. The Speedway gave me this one. I didn't actually buy it. Come on. At least that's what I told my wife. Yeah, very, yeah, I did see what they didn't, we tweeted them while we were there. I'm talking about merch now. Because
we did, yeah.
We couldn't find their trailer, and I don't think they actually have one. And so it was interesting. The tweet came out today for their gear, which I don't think it had anything to do with us.
No.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. It looked pretty cool from what I saw.
Yeah.
But a good congratulations to the team for winning Indy Next. They did a good job.
Yep. My line of the weekend, my favorite line from this weekend, spending time with you and the boys when we were leaving. Right. And I think you know what I'm going to say, right? We're leaving, getting ready. Hey guys, we got to stop. We're going to get some gas, got to get some food. What do you guys want? Son number 1. I'm okay. I don't have to eat. I'm okay. Son number 2. I'll just have some candy.
That's all that kid wants. He runs on sugar.
I love it.
Very interesting. And he's in a lot of sports, folks. So I don't know how he just sustains himself on sweets, but that's that's what he wants. And he's a grown boy, but he needs something more than sweets. So I think my answer on every time he asked was no.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Timmy, we moved now on to the Indy 500 chapters of this month of May 2023. Practice starts Tuesday, tomorrow, with qualifications over the weekend, May 20th to 21st. Timmy, you want to give me your poll prediction for the 500?
I will, and it really comes down to 2 teams, and it's still a very difficult pick. It really comes down to it's either going to come, and I can almost guarantee this, it's either going to come out of the Ganassi squad or it's going to come out of the Arrow McLaren squad. I don't think it's coming out of any other team, the pole position. So having said that, and knowing who's racing in those, and having Sato come in for this race, who doesn't typically run IndyCar now, right? He's only doing the ovals, and he's only signed for the first 2 ovals, this being the second one. And then you look at Arrow McLaren, and you've got Tony Kanaan coming on board for the 4th car. So you've got 8 cars to choose from in my sort of world. I think from that perspective, you got to look at who's got oval experience, who's got European road course experience, and how does that impact ovals? Does it impact it at all? There's a lot that is going on this front. I think the easy choice is Scott Dixon. He's not my choice, though.
Oh, okay.
I think he's the easy choice. It's probably the safest bet out of the entire 34 drivers that are attempting to qualify for this. But after I looked at everything, I digested it all, and I thought, there's going to be somebody else that goes to the top. I've got Felix Rosenqvist getting the pole on this one. I think he's you like all that build up for Felix Rosenqvist? I think he's got he's got it on the ovals. He's able to wheel it. He can figure it out. He's my guy. I'm going with him. That's my pole winner.
I love it.
Do you agree?
Exactly what he said. I wish I'd have gone first. Yes. Yes.
That's who you got?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. There you go. It's got to happen. We both have the same guy, and we don't look at each other's stuff. We both have the
No.
same Power 5, and we both have the same pole winner.
Yeah. Both have the same pole winner.
Do you want to
I
say
already
any
have
more on that topic?
my winner picked out, but we'll talk about that as we get ready to preview the
Yeah, I'm
500.
not ready for that one yet.
Yeah.
I got to
already
see
have
more.
that guy picked. So, which by saying that guy's already picked, it isn't Catherine Legg, unfortunately, but I'm sure she'll do well. Time for a few comments from the YouTube. Is that all right? We got time, Tim? Can I read a couple of comments?
I think so. I think we got some time.
Phil Mallinger. I purposely don't choose my fantasy roster until after qualifying, so I get a sense for who nailed the setup off the track. But my blind picks are going to be pole, award, win, Herta, and dark horse Lundgaard. This was for the Indy GP. So not a bad strategy and really not bad picks at all. Phil, good job on that one. Rod Brown, hopefully this GMR race is well patronized. I would say it was. And this weekend is not overlooked for the obsessive media attention given to the 500, as if it's the only thing that matters. It does, and it's really a drag because I thought the race this weekend was pretty good. Rod goes on to say, I see this long played attitude is now becoming a problematic issue in the attempt to now grow this series beyond just an American thing. Love you guys. Keep on, and God bless. So thanks.
Can I interject for a second on this one? Because I think it's important, the part that says that you don't overlook this, right? And then the series doesn't overlook it.
Yeah.
And I only had one thing that I was judging this on, if they were overlooking it or not. And it came prior to the race. And what was it, Dan, that I was looking for that said that better happen? If it doesn't happen.
The flyby. The flyover.
The flyover. I needed a flyover. And they had a flyover. And I was like, the race means something. And I don't, it's just simple little things, I think, that fans cue on to make it, is it an important event or is it not an important event? And that was just one of many, but that was one that I was like, it's got to happen. So in my opinion, it was not overlooked. It was well patronized. There were a lot of people there. You got to understand that place is huge. It probably didn't look like there were a ton of people when you looked at it on TV, but
our
when
buddy
you were walking
Gacker,
around,
right, replied to my tweet saying, where are all the people? And it's like, it's tough, right? We were sitting in the GA section and we'd take a picture, and it did fill up since, from when I took that picture. But, the place is so big and, I'm sure it's a lot of GA. So that's why I'm certain where we were sitting, it didn't look like there was a lot of people sitting there.
Yeah, no, it didn't. But you got to realize that place holds a ton of people. So I think it was well attended for sure.
Yeah. Paulo 123. I'm going to paraphrase because it was a rather long contribution, and we appreciate the contribution. But he speculates about opportunities in and around Southeast Michigan where a purpose-built road course, because it wouldn't be a street course, a purpose-built road course could be built along the riverfront. And I'll tell you, I love the idea because it certainly would clean up a lot of the eyesores that he calls out in this area, particularly, a few of which I see on a pretty regular basis when I'm out riding the bike. Right. I see those a lot of times.
Yeah, you do ride downtown.
Yeah, but I don't see anyone taking the Detroit Grand Prix out of Detroit again, nor do I see anyone, including Roger Penske, making an investment in a permanent course anywhere in Southeast Michigan. Yeah, and I sort of noted in the reply on the YouTube that this is not a political statement. This is just what it is putting the Grand Prix back in the city benefits the city even greater. Belle Isle Park is a state park. So it's a benefit to the state as a whole, but the Grand Prix being in Detroit helps the Detroit perspective of the Detroit Grand Prix. So you and I have a scheme of that track. I don't have any, we're way ahead of ourselves. I don't have any faith for the racing in that track. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. We'll talk about that as it comes up, but we do have the schematic and how it's all going to be laid out. So we'll talk about that as we get closer. But I think what you need to understand, even with this comment, is that, General Motors World Headquarters is right there in downtown in the Renaissance Center. And there's no way they want to move that outside of that. There's no way they want the Renaissance Center not to be part of the pictures that go on to, everybody throughout the states and elsewhere to talk about GM and Chevrolet and the money they put into this series, especially at the Indy 500. You'd look at all the trucks, all the Corvettes, everything that goes on there.
Camaros,
you mentioned the Camaros that were driving around the track, the convertibles. And so it's going to be down there. It's going to be down there for a long time. I love the idea though. When I saw this on the notes, I thought of, the place up here in Pontiac that has the the track, similar to what goes on at Thermal. We've got a track up here in Detroit that's kind of the same thing. You have owners that have suites and garages, and they've got this road course. You could run some testing out there. You could do a test event really for some of the folks, and we'd love to see that happen. But I don't see them building a full road course on the Detroit River.
And finally, welcome to our new subscriber, Alfire 101. Welcome. Appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. Please do if you haven't already. I get a kick out of watching those numbers grow, and they've continued to grow. So we're proud of the efforts there. So don't forget to catch up on the stories from the weekend at our web partner, IndyCar1909.com. Lots of great stuff there. It'll be updated timely, as we mentioned earlier. Spencer is dedicating a ton of time over the month of May of being on site and on the street and bringing terrific stories to you there. Timmy, that's all I got.
Same here. It's been a great show. Good time.
It's been a good show.
It was a great trip down to Indy too. So we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, long trip, right? I mean, in the car for the boys, it was a long day in the sun, and it was hot, and it was the first hot day for us to be out there. So, but the guys, they did a great job. I enjoyed spending time with them. My kids are grown. I have the same dad reactions to my kid, of no, you can't eat candy. No, and my whole thing was I was bound and determined I'm gonna get that kid candy, but you gave me a look that said, don't you?
You got him enough cookies. He was happy.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'm in that fun uncle stage, right? My kids are all grown. So,
yep.
That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in,
all right,
everybody. We'll catch you
appreciate
next
everybody.
Week. Post qualifying show. We'll get there, and we'll pick our Indy 500 winners. We'll see if Tim and I disagree on that one, because we both agree on Felix Rosenqvist, which I'm actually stunned at. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
I'm stunned too.